Now the big picture camera swings back to New Jersey and Camp Kilmer, where the band is out every day to either send off or welcome back the Army's very important persons. In this case, soldiers are returning from overseas.
Men on trains, lead the train with all your baggage. 4 and 2, 3 ranks outside facing away from the train, 6 feet out in the center of the car.
For some of these men, one part of their military service is ending. They are at Camp Kilmer for transfer from active duty after 2 years of service. They'll soon become part of the Ready Reserve in their home states and available for further service in the event of a national emergency. It takes 3 days to be processed through. Here a man is informed of his remaining obligations to his government and of his government's obligations to him. And an important part of the transfer process is the counseling interview. Here a soldier gets information about insurance, employment, and any number of problems affecting his veteran status. From 6,000 to 9,000 men go through here each month, each of them receiving careful screening of their records, a complete physical, and final pay. That man is going to the reserve, but Camp Kilmer is also a point of departure for overseas duty. Camp Kilmer is the Army staging area on the East Coast. It not only collects and moves men out, it prepares them for the job ahead. That's the task of an old soldier like Sergeant First Class Frank Thomas. What do you tell a man who's on his way overseas?
What we of the Overseas Orientation Team tell them takes approximately 3 hours. We remind them that they're on their way to Europe, where they will face new duties and further training. We also tell them that the countries that they're going to see will be of a different sort than America. We remind them that the fact that they are American ambassadors and what the people of the foreign countries see with them will reflect directly upon America. So from there, we give them a short course on what the people will be like that they're living among.
And what's the next step after that?
The next step is to wait for available space on a ship.
And then they're ready to go.
That's correct.
Thank you, Sergeant. And this sergeant is starting another phase in a long career. How many times you been through Camp Kilmer, Sergeant?
3 times.
And where are you going now?
Back to my outfit, 172nd Infantry Regiment, Germany.
Well, how many years did it make for you with this re-enlistment?
13.
Well, have a happy voyage.
Yeah, thank you.
Processing these men through here is a big job. That's a bit of Camp Kilmer's mission as part of the First Army. If you were to leave here on your way overseas, your next stop would be the New York port of embarkation. A vast project of the Army is the shipment of equipment and personnel to overseas installations. Here at the largest domestic transportation core terminal in the country, the Army has handled some 7 million measurement tons of cargo and over 500,000 passengers, embarking and debarking to and from points all over the world. Almost daily, American troops leave this port for their overseas assignments. This ship is taking replacements to Europe. Our visit to First Army ends where it began, in New York Harbor. From a tiny island, First Army controls a huge, complex military machine spread over 8 strategically important northeastern states. Operated by thousands of full-time soldiers and civilian specialists, all dedicated to America's greatest task, the fight for freedom. And that's the wind-up on First Army. We'll soon be on our way with a big picture camera to Second Army, where we'll see you next week.
That's the story of First Army, one of the 6 armies ever vigilant within the continental limits of the United States. We've learned of its mission from its commander and spoken to officers and men who are helping to keep it functioning at the peak of efficiency and readiness. This has been the first of a special series of on-the-spot reports, as seen through the eye of the big picture camera. Next week, our camera lens will be pointing in the direction of another segment of our vast Continental Force, the Second Army. Once again, our guide will be Lieutenant John Mortimer. Now, this is Sergeant Stuart Queen, inviting you to tune in next week for another look at your Army in action on The Big Picture.
The Big Picture is a weekly television report to the nation on the activities of the Army at home and overseas. Produced by the Signal Corps Pictorial Center. Presented by the U.S. Army in cooperation with this station. You can be an important part of the big picture. You can proudly serve with the best equipped, the best trained, the best fighting team in the world today, the United States Army.